Places. Places. Did you hear that?
Heck yeah!
You are listening to Calling Out Controversy, the new political and economic talk show that's taking over the information station where you'll never know what you'll hear next. It's 88.3 FM, WVCR The Saint. Now let's focus up, because here's Nicole Commisso and Andrew Hecht with this week's topic. Hey everybody, this is Andrew Hecht.
And Nicole Commisso.
And we are calling out controversy every week. This week our topic is feminism.
Yes, we're going to talk about feminism, the new age feminism, and the popular term with the left, which is male privilege.
And possibly touching on what the glass ceiling is, and a couple of other things I have no idea. So Nicole's just going to take the lead on this
Okay, so basically, you guys, as a college student today, I have been taught, and when I mean taught, I mean force-fed, about the political agenda that is male privilege. And so I know we talked about white privilege a couple weeks back. And, you know, basically what we're seeing on college campuses and in the left is this victimized mentality, which we talked about, Andrew.
Yeah.
Right. So this is such a mistake, and especially for quote unquote minorities and for women to say things like male privilege and all these extremely popular terms that basically, in my opinion, hold these people back and don't allow them to move forward, because it makes them think, the victim mentality, that I can't do it because, you know, someone's ahead of me anyways.
So before we go any further, I just want to know, like, because the one thing I do understand about feminism is obviously even in today's environment, women make 70 cents on the dollar. Is that the typical statistic that's thrown out there for a male doing the same job?
Okay, so for that statistic, it's such a false notion when people say things like that. And I don't know if it's exactly 70 cents on the dollar, but whatever they throw out there, that statistic is taken from all of the money that the male gender makes in our country.
Go me.
And all of the money that the female gender makes in our country.
Go you.
And then it's averaged, and that's how they get that statistic. So, you know, they're throwing out there that women make something cents on a dollar that men make, but it's actually not true, because women actually tend to, which we've seen it in society for, you know, hundreds of years, women tend to pick jobs that are lower paying than men. It's just something that happens.
Well, do you think it's not necessarily that that's on purpose, though? That's just something that you're saying isn't a naturally occurring fact in our
I'm saying
economy?
that that's a naturally occurring, you know, factor in our society, that women tend to take nursing jobs and women tend to take nanny jobs. And it's just, you know, and I'm not being sexist about it. I'm just saying that's the statistics we've seen. If we want to talk real numbers, that women actually tend to pick lower paying jobs than men. We're seeing a different trend starting now as more women are tending to go to college. More women are tending to get more educated and go on to graduate school and become CEOs and, you know, so on. But in the past, that's where that statistic comes from. So it's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. I mean, women are the freest in America, in the world, right now.
Compared even to the UK or to other democratic freedom-based countries?
Yeah, women in America are the freest in the world. Meanwhile, women in America are told that they're oppressed, that there's this glass ceiling that they need to break through. There is, you know, a wage gap, which it's not true. The wage gap theory that they put forth is that if you and I both went up for a job right now, that I would get paid less than you.
Okay.
Just because you're a man and I'm a woman. And that's what they really want people to think. And that's not true. If you and I both went and applied for a job, we would get paid the same amount.
So just to clarify, I know you've referenced it before, but you're talking about an article you've seen on Liberty Den, right?
Yep, it's my article, actually.
Oh, it's your article?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I mean,
if you guys are on Facebook, go to Liberty Den University and like it.
did you source cite your information for the article by any chance, or like
about what?
About when you're saying that we're freer here than anywhere else, or we make the same pay comparatively, you guys just happen to pick lower income jobs, or like
I mean,
are there statistics that we can back up? Because I can feel the listeners right now going, ooh.
Yes, every single source that I'm talking about, I'll put on the YouTube channel attached to this episode if you want to go look at the sources.
Ooh, yeah. Please
So,
go on our YouTube channel, go on our Instagram as well.
Calling
It's
Out
really
Controversy,
important.
you can find every single source I'm talking about. But yes, women are the freest in the world right now in America. Women do not make less than men. It's just a big pool where they put forth info to try and make it seem like it's the whole victimized mentality thing. They're trying to make it seem like women can't make it. Women cannot go forward. And just for the record, I'm not saying that there aren't sexist people out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've encountered sexist people. I have. I'm a woman. I could say that I've encountered sexist people.
I mean,
There
I've
are
never
bad
met
eggs in every bunch.
I've never met someone in my particular life that's sexist towards men other than other men, but I can say that, yeah, I've seen
Right,
people
that's
who are
what I'm
sexist
saying.
towards women, of course.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, I'm not denying reality, which is there are bad people, there are sexist people, there are racist people, there are homophobic people. We don't live in a perfect world. We definitely don't live in a perfect country. That's not what I'm saying at all. I mean, this is a funny story. One of my first jobs, I worked at a pizzeria. All right. They trained me. They hired me. It was all guys except for me. I was the cashier. Okay. They trained me for the first day. All the guys were super nice to me, whatever. I was in high school. And I get a call from the owner's wife of this said pizzeria.
Okay.
I get a call and they tell me, I'm really sorry. We're not going to be able to keep you. Meanwhile, they already hired me. I was training for this job.
Yeah, okay.
I said, well, what did I do wrong? So I know for next jobs, what should I do? She goes, you're too much of a distraction to the male workers.
Well, good for you.
I mean, I guess it's a compliment, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, I technically got fired from this job for being a woman.
Yeah, for breathing and existing in a pizzeria.
Exactly. For being a woman and having the body parts that I have. So I've experienced it myself, but guess what? I took this. I didn't sit at home. I didn't cry about it. I didn't say, woe is me, I'm a woman, I can't get ahead. No. And I actually got an even better job
At a club?
With a financial advisor.
Oh.
And, now I've reached up the financial ladder in that job, and I've actually gotten a raise, and I actually might even make it my career one day.
That's awesome, man.
But, you got to weed through the bad people and people like that where, you're going to come in contact with sexist people. I mean, this one woman was a lady who fired me. You know what I mean?
Well, she fired you because her husband was probably looking at you a lot. So.
Well, and guess what? That's not my problem.
That's not your problem.
No.
It's a world problem. We need equality.
And you know what? We do have equality, which is why I could quit that job or get fired from it, go to another job, and make even more money and have an even better future about it.
So then, while we're talking relative economics, because we're talking about the job market and the equality of women and men in said market, what's your take on the glass ceiling then? Although I can assume it.
I do not think there is a glass ceiling. I think that's hogwash.
So let's look up the glass ceiling definition real quick. I have it right here, so we'll pull it up. So according to Wikipedia, the glass ceiling is a metaphor used to represent an invisible barrier that keeps a given demographic, typically applied to minorities, from rising beyond a certain level in a hierarchy. Now, obviously, we're talking about the glass ceiling that applies to women. And if you are out there and you're thinking, well, Wikipedia is not a viable source, it is source cited as coming from the U.S. Department of Labor. So we're back on credibility. Anyways, the glass ceiling. So you're saying you think it's hogwash. I kind of understand it, although it's hard for me to gauge how important it is because I don't have this side effect. Obviously as a male, if there were some type of gender bias that we could confirm 100%, I wouldn't be applicable to it, or I would be a part of it, in which case that means I would have to fix myself.
Here's where you would actually be applicable to this whole entire thing. As a man, especially as a white man, you are
multicultural.
I'm saying in societal terms, you're a white dude. So you actually, in the whole progressive stance when it comes to male privilege and feminism and the glass ceiling, you actually would fall into it because you're really supposed to be letting women go past you. That's how you, and this is not my opinion, this is their opinion. You are supposed to let them get through that glass ceiling. So if you and I are at the same job, we're both going for a CEO job, all right? You're supposed to let me win.
So as in,
because that you're giving back to me for all the bad things that have happened to women in society.
It'd be my pleasure.
So basically, they want to hire solely based on sex.
So as the envoy of women in the room here, may I voice my opinion on feminism real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, because like the only thing that I really have to contribute is, like you just said, the idea that I should just let someone go ahead of me. Now, obviously, I don't think that ever, according to anything. Like, and not from a saying like I'm better than other people, but let's compete.
Right.
Let's compete, and so
that's the only way we're gonna have the best people doing the best job at the best work.
Of course. So now, obviously, I've heard an adage. Sure, I've heard an adage over the last few years where people have explained to me that over the course of trying to make equality of outcome possible, we have lowered the standards for certain jobs, menial jobs, physical jobs, in order to allow more women into that field. One story that I've heard repetitively is the fire departments, where the weight requirement for what you'd have to lift in order to become a fireman, or the physical fitness requirement you'd have to perform, has been lowered both in the fire department and then again in the police department. Now, I am going to clarify and say that is conjecture that I've heard. I do not have proof off the top of my hand to defend that. But if that were to be the case, I would then say, find me someone who is capable of meeting the requirement. Because if I'm in a burning building and I'm pinned down by a 400-pound pole that's on fire, I really don't care what the gender of the person saving me is, as long as I get out of the burning building.
Right, as long as they could save you.
Right. So that is where I would say, okay, if you can't do the job, then your equality of outcome is nonsense, because you're basically saying just because that person has certain requirements, they must get into this field even without the proper qualifications.
Right. And you know what? Honestly, Andrew, I agree with you on that point, but we're going to have to take a quick break from calling out controversy and listen to this sponsorship from WVCR 88.3 FM, The Saint. Hey, you guys, this is Nicole Commisso.
And Andrew Hecht.
And we are calling out controversy. Today we are talking about the new age of feminism, male privilege, and the non-existent glass ceiling. Where we're going is, and Andrew, I think you just said that you agree that really women shouldn't be hired solely because of their sex.
Right. So at the risk of never having another girlfriend again, I don't think that you should be chosen for a job specifically because of your gender or your race or anything like that.
Yeah,
I think that competition is key. And if you really want something, you're going to have to work pretty hard to get that. Now,
I mean, how else would we have the best candidates for each job without competition?
Exactly. And I agree with that. Now, obviously, I would love to see successful women, successful minorities overall, but specifically, I love successful women. Personally, I really like women that are confident, they take charge, they know what's up. So, I have no problem with any of this. Equal pay, obviously, if you can do the job, you can do the work, you can provide the exact same quality and performance of a man, then yeah, get the same amount of pay. Like, who doesn't want that? I really don't think there is anybody out here being like, no, I want my 30 cents.
I mean, honestly, the wage gap is false. The wage gap is a big fallacy. And I mean, we're going to put sources on this. Follow us on YouTube, Calling Out Controversy.
And Instagram.
But it's illegal to pay women less than men. It's not allowed in our country.
That's what I figured.
It is. It's not allowed. It's illegal. So, and this goes back to actually, implementing the laws that are in right now. And this goes the same for racism. If you're fired for your race, that's obviously, clearly not allowed. So you sue that person. We were just talking about Ben Shapiro. And you can find a lot of videos of his on Liberty Den University on Facebook.
Also on the Daily Wire.
If that actually happened and you have evidence to back it up, you should go and sue that employer
Yeah, it's
And
human
if
resources.
Right, exactly. And then that person will get probably fired, and you should get the justice that you deserve. Do we live in a perfect world with a perfect criminal justice system? No. But you got to take with what we got here. So basically, you know, I'm Andrew. I'm proud to say I'm not a feminist. I think that their movement, you know, is shameful and that it promotes a victimized mentality. And I think that, you know...
Well, I wouldn't say that the entire movement
I do.
is shameful. I think that
the new age feminism is completely disgusting.
So the
everything
modern
that they
movement,
do.
you think the modern movement's bad?
Yeah, the new age modern feminists promote victimized mentalities. They're not actually for women, and you know, they really just talk about how quote unquote oppressed we are. I'm doing air quotes, oppressed that women are in this country. Meanwhile, take a look at look at Middle Eastern countries where women just got the right to drive. I mean, like, we have women in America that are complaining about how, again, air quotes, oppressed they are, but we have equal opportunity. We have equal pay. It's illegal to pay a woman less than a man just because she's a woman.
No, and I think that you're right. In the grand scheme of things, the stuff that we complain about at this point is almost, I'll say, shameful comparative to what other people have to fight for in other countries, in less developed countries.
I think we should celebrate the freedom that we have in America and use the unprecedented freedom that we have, especially as women, to go out there and do whatever you want. I mean, look at me. I'm a woman. I'm in college. I got to choose the college I go to. I could drive. I have a license. I'm on this radio show with you. I mean, if there was really male privilege, wouldn't there be 2 men in this radio show today?
Just wait till you leave.
Oh, my God. Ha, ha, ha.
No, I can never have a male co-host again.
But you know what I'm saying? You catch my gist.
Yeah. I think that we've got it covered, man. I think we got it covered as a country. If you genuinely feel like you aren't treated equally, just let us know and we'll try and help figure that out, because maybe we're missing something. I don't know. We're not perfect. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician as of yet. You're not a lawyer or a politician as of yet. We're not God, we're not geniuses, so like we have the right to express our opinion, and that's exactly what we're doing. And if you disagree, and we're also doing it with the understanding that we're trying to just get to the bottom of get to the bottom of these issues that are plaguing society. Right. And you know what? Let's talk about women and men in the workplace cohabitating. Let's talk about sexual harassment. So like harassment in general is a very, very broad term. You know, like harassment in general, there is no clear definition. Where last week I was saying that hate speech and abuse and threatening other people through hate speech is a pretty clearly defined line, which you obviously disagreed with. Over here, I would definitely say harassment, there is no clear fine line, because harassment is kind of what you were alluring to when you were saying, did you find something offensive? Yeah, I mean, you can find someone offensive. You can consider something somebody's doing as harassing, and that kind of sucks. But where I'm at with it is that it depends on what culture or what environment you're in that workplace. Sexual harassment obviously has a sexual connotation to it, which makes it a lot more delicate of an issue. But even there, what's described as sexual harassment? What's just workplace flirtation? How do you know? Like, what's one of the signals that you can send it? How do you know that if you're trying to be flirtatious with someone, let's say you're a single male, you're young, and you want to flirt with a single female, that's your age group and all that, like, how do you know that's unwarranted if you don't give it a shot first? Like, are we just going to start going, oh, you can never find a relationship at work? I mean, I think that's a good point, honestly. And, I mean, sexual harassment, I would have to agree that there is a fine line with harassment, but sexual harassment, I think, is pretty defined, and it's pretty defined when it comes to a lot of organizations. So obviously organizations have their own definitions of sexual harassment, and they have their own definitions of how to report sexual harassment. I mean, right here at Santa College, we do. We have, Title IX, and we have, you could go in and file a report, yada, yada, and then they investigate it. It's very interesting because over here they have anonymity clauses. Anonymity clauses are, to me, really inappropriate. Meaning you can be anonymous, say I filed a claim. Yeah. And I could be anonymous in filing that claim. Sure. You don't think that that's cool? No. I mean, if you're in danger for your life,
then you would want to
over
be in
sexual harassment.
Who knows? You don't know. I mean, we're kind of going into a lot of hypotheticals here.
Well,
but
okay, so like here's a really blatant hypothetical. If we work together, this is a volunteer program, but let's say this is a job we work together.
Right.
All right, we work together, and if I just decide to be like, oh, hey, do you want to come grab a drink later? You know, and let's say you happen to be sensitive to that type of flirtation. Or what if I, like, as I passed you, I put my hand on your shoulder to say, like, oh, like, I'm coming through, watch out. You know? But I just didn't say anything, I just, like, moved you out of the way, right? And let's say you took that as a sexual advance. So if you go to Title IX and you say, I want to make an anonymous report that I had a coworker making sexual advances on me and offering to take me out for a drink, and I didn't want that. And you have never previously beforehand told me that. Or somebody else hasn't previously beforehand explained it.
I think that that's wrong.
Well, if you make an anonymous report and then I happen to get brought up and go,
okay,
oh,
I
hey,
understand what you're saying.
Who said that, though? They're like,
on the radio show today,
anonymous.
we are hypothetical land, but let me just say, I think that that's wrong. I think that women should, if that happens, first of all, always stand up for yourself. Don't ever feel like you cannot stand up for yourself. I think that that's another part of the victimized mentality to, cower in a corner. If that happens to me, say you touch my shoulder, you asked me out on a drink, and I was like, sorry, dude, you're not my type. Or I was like, don't touch me again, please. I'm just that type of person. I was raised to always defend yourself. Always. So I think we need to start teaching more of that. And you know what, we're talking about the New Age feminism and the New Age women's movement. I mean, we just saw this with the controversial Kavanaugh hearing where, they're saying things like always believe survivors, and this kind of, talking about rape and sexual harassment, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
One can lead to another.
In the same family of controversial issues.
If you want to call it a family, those are distant cousins. Like there's a difference between going, hey, you want to go out for a drink and like touching someone and then raping someone. Those are three very different things.
Obviously, but what I'm saying is the new age of always believe survivors, and there are women that have lied and falsely accused people of things. That's a reality.
There were two cases real recently. One was a college girl at the time had accused several football players of rape, and it turned out she was lying because they didn't like her. And then there was another one where a woman was caught by a judge accusing her 10th male attacker of rape. 10th.
And they were all incorrect.
And they were all wrong. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is, and I'm not saying to not believe women, but what I'm saying is on the whole topic of sexual harassment in the workplace, on the whole topic of rape, and on, women defending themselves, we really need to have a due process of law. And if there is an allegation made, it really needs to be investigated, and it needs to be found. Are they innocent or are they guilty? Well, is there evidence to back it up?
Right, and I also think that when you brought up the believe all victims type thing, obviously I'm not here to victim bash.
Right, and neither am I.
I've had friends who very unfortunately have had issues with that type of problem. So it is a sensitive topic for me, and I am inclined to almost always believe the person who says, oh, I was attacked. However,
there are people that lie about terrible things.
But not only that, we have a system in this country which is you are innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And especially in the Kavanaugh hearing, which we saw, which now we've completely deviated from the topic, but like in the Kavanaugh hearing, what we saw, we were like, we were seeing, people like, oh, he's guilty. He said, dude didn't even get a trial.
Right.
It wasn't a trial. It was a confirmation hearing.
And we have people that are saying,
and no charges were filed.
They're saying throw away due process of law.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big thing,
It's insane. That is the type of feminism that is wild. When you're part of a feminist group that's saying things like, oh, because a woman said so. A woman said. There are plenty of horrible women.
I have two little cousins that are 4 and 5 years old. They're both girls. And I think what we really need to do as a society is start teaching women to defend themselves. Teaching women that, you know what, you don't have to do what you don't want to do. And teaching women to, if God forbid you ever got raped, go to a hospital.
Right away.
Go to a hospital right away. In the first 24 hours, that's the only time you could prove that something happened to you.
Yeah.
These are the
Get the rape kit done.
These are the things that we need to start teaching. We need to start letting women defend themselves. We need to start... You know what I'm saying?
It should be part of sex education.
Yes,
it's like
absolutely.
if something happens to you that is non-consensual during a sexual act, right away. Like, right away. Because you might feel uncomfortable, you might feel attacked and violated, and I know those are hard things to tackle, but, like, if you wait even a week, it all of a sudden becomes, it all of a sudden becomes discreditable.
Yes.
And that's what's sad. And what's also sad is we also have run out of time today.
Oh, man. Maybe we'll talk about that topic another time.
But thank you for listening if you've listened this whole way, and please follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and this has been Calling Out Controversy on WBCR 88.3 FM.